Hello, everybody. We are here for Tuesday Talks. Tuesday Talks is all about getting to know an individual from an industry, and finding out what makes them tick, what do they care about, how their career reflects that, and what motivates them and what keeps them going. So today we have an amazing soul called Mathilda. Mathilda helps overwhelmed women reclaim their power and create the life they desire. No one is you, and that's your power. So let's get Mathilda on.
Hello,
Hi,
hello.
hi, Mathilda. Thank you very much for coming on to Tuesday Talks.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I've done a short introduction for you already, but you're the best person to expand on that and let us know who you are, what you do, and the biggest question that everybody has is, why do you do it, Matilda?
Okay, who am I? So I'm Matilda. I'm from Finland, and I feel like my whole life I've been a person who is just excited about learning or excited about what is there to life. And I've also always had this feeling of like there is something more. So having that mindset growing up, I was always like, okay, I want my life to look like my life. And right now, things that I value are like fulfillment and joy. And once I like started to think about those questions, I was like, okay, but if these are important to me, and then hearing all the people around me talk about their lives, I'm like, okay, there is something here. I think this is something that we want to focus on more. So then I wanted to support people in finding their own joy and purpose as well. And that's why I became a coach. So, like you shared before, like helping people to reclaim their power and just create a life that they desire, create a life that they deserve as well. So, right now, I help my clients to really get to their fullest, express it, and just like whatever they want to be, they can. And I want to be a person who inspires people to have the courage to be that. And yeah, just like we are creating a new world here. And I think that world needs to look a bit different. It needs to look um, like more joy and happiness and just people living their purpose. That would like be the ideal world, in my opinion, if everyone would
Mhm.
just do more of the things that they love to do or that brings them joy. Like this place would be a lot better, in my opinion.
I, I,
Yeah.
I love I love that, and thank you very much for expanding on to who you are and what you're doing, and the sole purpose I hear for you there as well, right?
Mm.
Is to create that harmony. That
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is with people to fulfill um, their purpose in life. A lot of
Yeah.
people who are looking for their purpose. Oh, I don't know what my purpose is. There should be something more for those people who are thinking that,
Yeah.
right? And I can see you guiding them into tuning into that frequency because
Yeah.
it's all that frequencies, right? We tune out of it. I'm now thinking back, what was just resonated with me is when we are kids, we are tuned into that frequency already. We are thinking of becoming an astronaut. We are thinking of helping the world with whatever those things are. We are free and we are doing things and we're creating stuff. But then somewhere along the lines, society uh, and relatives, parents, all this people start to guide us. And nothing that they do anything wrong is what they know and what they teach us is because what their limited knowledge is, right? And then we are molded into what that knowledge was handed down now, and we continue with that. And then it comes to a point where we're like, okay, I think there's more. Uh,
Yeah.
and we find out the more is actually connecting back to your younger self, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that is like one of the big questions that I like to ask people is like, if money and time was not a thing, what would you do? And often it is something that they go back to their childhood because that is when we are everything that we are. Like, as you said, like once we're kids, we're just like anything is possible. And
Mm,
then we are creative, we like have all these ideas, but then, as we get older and expectations of others and all of these and come, it's like we forget that. And a big thing that I do and I want to be here to help people is like, it's not about becoming someone new or growing to something else. It's about remembering who we were
mm,
and that journey back to ourselves. And by that, it's like we step into our power by being ourselves, by remembering who we are and what an amazing and just light being that we are. But it is so easy to forget. And how I grew up, like I was always living for others, like doing whatever my parents wanted me to do, or always just tried to fit in with like a bunch of groups. And I was just last week like journaling about this, and I was like writing like, okay, this is how I was like when I was a kid, I was like doing these things, and then kind of just like what happened, like what happened, where did it where did I forget who I was? And I came back to that when I was in middle school and high school, I tried to be friends with everyone. I tried to be something for everyone. So I was like, not being myself. I was like mirroring them and being like, okay, I think this is what they want me to do or be. So I'm going to be that because then I will fit in. And
mm,
I had always this like need to be like, I need to fit in because the only thing that I was craving was deep connection. And I thought that I would get that by just trying to be whatever they wanted me to be. So one of my big missions now is like, I want to create a space where people feel seen and heard in everything or anything that they are. And because there is people who are going to be the same, but we just don't have those places or communities because we have, it's so easy to like get stuck in this like loop of like, okay, what do they want from me or what do I think that they want from me? So we forget like, but what do I want from me? What do I want to be? So that is definitely something that I want to be here to change and really just like create even like one person at a time. Like if I get to like help someone to step into their power, and that person of course is going to then change the people around them, because once you really shine your light, other people notice, and similar people get attracted to you because they're like, she has or he has something that I want. Like she is happy or he is,
mm,
doing whatever he wants. And of course, that is what we're all craving. So then they're gonna get curious, like, oh, but what did that person do? And then it's like a ripple effect of just like spreading that love and light and just being in our own power and in our gifts. And that is gonna then, it's gonna be a ripple effect, and soon the whole world will be more joyous and just more happiness in this
mm.
world. So yeah.
I that's actually fantastic. And just give me a second.
Yeah.
Um, right. That's actually fantastic. And what came to my mind was if you could take us through, because you say that no one is you, and that's your power.
Yeah.
Expand on that a little bit for listeners or viewers who are
Yeah.
just thinking what that is.
Yeah. So I think that quote has been with me for several years. And when I saw it the first time, I've been always this person who like I love to inspire people. And even growing up when I was like 12 or 11, I used to have this Instagram where I would share like first it was all about like nails, and then it was like food and just like inspirational quotes. And I remember stumbling across this one. And I was thinking about like no one is you, and that is your power. And what I always tried to do back then was like, I need to be as everyone else, and then I'm in my power because I'm liked. But that's not the truth. And when I was really thinking about like, actually, we're all unique, and we all, we can have similar interest or even look a bit similar, but at our core, like we're still all unique in who we are. So that quote was just like I when I read it, I remember that first
Mm,
of all, we all have our unique purpose. And often we think like, okay, maybe this is already done. Like there's so many coaches or there's so many people who have this type of blah blah blah, whatever the story is. But then we forget, but you haven't done it. And me sharing even the exact same information, it's not gonna be the same because I have my own experiences. And the other person sharing a similar thing, like they have their unique experience. So it's gonna be different anyways. And that experience that is unique to me is gonna resonate with a certain amount of people or a certain people group or whatever. And then again, someone else sharing the same thing is gonna resonate with whoever that person is
mhm.
attracting. So I think that quote for me is just like, we are all unique and there is room for everyone to do whatever they want and be in their power and really like share whatever gifts they have to share. So yeah.
I actually love that, and whilst you were saying this, I was just picturing. I'm not really a sports person, so I was thinking of like a football match or one of these matches where there are 10, 11 different players. They are all unique, but they all have a common goal at that time, right? Is to score the goal for their team, right? But they all have their unique powers, but they are working as one unit and bring in their uniqueness as well. Because I don't know as I said, I'm not a sports person, so whatever their roles are in that game, they bring in that role uh, up in again, right? And then they have a coach who enhances that because recognizing what their roles are, what their uniqueness is in that team, and then enhances and helps them to get together and do that, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what just came into my mind. Maybe totally off topic, but I was just thinking that way.
No,
Uh,
exactly. No, I definitely resonate with that because it is about like often we forget, like I shared in the beginning, like once we're kids, we might remember who we are, all that light and
mm,
just that beautiful being that we're born here to be, but then we forget. And sometimes it's hard to go through that journey to remember again. And that's when it's so valuable to have someone to support you because even me like I've gone through like I have coaches I've gone to therapy and all of that because for me it feels like for ourselves we have like these like blinders on our eyes,
mm.
but then it's so easy to see the light and just love in others, but then we don't see it for ourselves. And that's when it's as like in a football team, like the coach seeing like, okay, these two together work best if they do this and this because that's their unique gifts. But then themselves, they would not maybe notice it. So I think that is definitely like a good point of like it is okay, first of all, to ask help, and it is also so valuable. And if you want to get faster to wherever you want to go, it is easier when there's someone to support you and help you through that journey.
That's I love that. I love that. So take us through a pivotal moment that you had where you had this realization as to this is what you want to do now. You know, help, and you've niched it down to women as well. So so question would be, you know, why overwhelmed women? Um,
Mm,
and, you know, what was that realization for yourself to say, okay, you know, I'm going to do this now?
yeah. Well, first, the overwhelm. That is something that I had my first burnout when I was 19 years old. After high school, I was the hyperachiever. So my achievements was the same as my worth when I grew up. So I tried to do everything for everyone. I tried to be as good as like try to be perfect in anything I did and just like yeah, I was just like doing a lot of things. And then of course I was stressed because I was not listening to myself. I was not living for myself. I was living for everyone else. So I got a burnout and that kind of forced my body to like you have to stop. Like I literally could not do anything. So I had to sit with my emotions first of all. I had to sit with the reason why am I like why did this happen? Because it obviously it was something that I had learned because I didn't know I was doing anything wrong. I thought that was how you're supposed to do life. So that was kind of a big like slap in the face of like, this is, you're not gonna survive if you keep going this way. So that's when I started to like, okay, I was honestly, I was quite a like rock bottom, and it was like, okay, I can't go any lower, so I guess the only option is up.
Hmm.
And that then got me to a journey of like connecting to my body and like, okay, at that point it was kind of, I remember I was in therapy at the time, and like one of the action steps that I had was like, okay, find something that brings you joy in your everyday life. Because at that point it was like, I don't even know. Like, yes, I have always been a happy person and like all of that. And as I shared in the beginning, like I've always known there is something more to life, but being just so exhausted, it was hard to see what that was. So I started to connect more to my body and really like, okay, what do I want to do? And that connected, of course, back to my childhood. Like, what did I like to do before? And what brought me joy, and even those little things of like, okay, I'm just gonna go outside in nature and play with my dogs, like, and that's enough. You know, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to achieve whatever I at that point thought I had to achieve to get the joy. So once I started to learn that and connect more to my body, I also learned to listen to my intuition of like, okay, what is it that I actually want to do, and what is that someone else wants me to do. And it was a hard journey to have the courage to listen to yourself instead of your whole family or your friends. I remember a lot of people were questioning like why, like my parent, like my dad wanted me to go and study economics, and I was kind of like, ah, but I want to go into biology and the science part. And it was such a hard decision to be like, no, I'm going to do what I wanted at the time and not listen to everyone else. And it's funny, like, even a couple of weeks ago, so this was like in 2019, I started studying that, but even a couple of weeks ago, still my family asked, so when are you going to switch to economics? And I'm like, really? Like, still? And of course, that is like, you know, it's not easy even after we make the decisions. Like, yes, we feel better. And it's like, even now, like, okay, after a while, they saw that, okay, maybe it was a good, you know, decision for her. And of course, like later, yes, my path has gone more towards the business aspect, but it was still important for me at that point to listen to my own body and that make that decision for myself. So having this journey of like the battle between what I thought everyone was expected me to do or what they were
Hmm.
expecting me to do versus what my heart desired to do. And then, so that journey, and then the beginning of this year, I co-founded this witch school in Finland. And then I started to teach about my journey there. And it was kind of, I wasn't necessarily supposed to do that, but it just kind of, the universe just like gave me this opportunity. So I was like, okay, let's step up. And maybe there is people who want to hear about my story and listen to whatever I have to teach about that. So I started to share this journey of like, how do you learn to listen to your intuition? How do you find that inner voice, what your heart truly desires? And then just like sharing whatever I had gone through and how that resonated with everyone who was listening and how that helped just made me realize like this is what I want to do. So I then maybe it was like 2 weeks and then I stumbled across Dharma Coaching Institute because I was like, okay, I need to learn more. Like, how can I be there for people? How can I hold space better? How can I listen better? How can I help them go through that journey that I've gone through? So yeah, then I found ECI, and of course I joined right away because it was such a like big yes. And as I was like teaching about intuition, I was like, I need to listen to my own body here and just do it, even though it didn't make any like sense. Like I had so many other things going on. in the spring, but I was just like, no, like this is such a like full body yes that we're doing this. And I did that, and that has just opened such a beautiful journey of like, this is really what I get to do. Like my
Mm,
embodying my like everything that I've learned and everything that I've gone through, and having that whatever experience I've had, sharing that and that unique in that unique way is what I now do. And that is possible, you know, and that is what I'm now here to share. Like, it is possible. And those things that you've gone through that was hard at the moment, like, once you get, it might take a while, but at some point, turning those into gifts. Like, yeah, it sucked at that moment, but now it's the biggest gift I got because now I know how it feels like. So I can help others who are there as well. It's like, okay, but there is a way out. It is possible, and there is more to life. And I can be like, yeah, I believe this since I was a kid, and it's true, even though sometimes it was hard to believe. But now it's like, yeah, it is true, and we are creating our own reality. And it takes work, and it takes uncomfortable situations and stepping out of your comfort zone, but it is so worth it.
I
Yeah.
love that, and thank you for sharing this. And I heard, I was also listening to some vulnerabilities that you've shared there. So thank you for sharing the vulnerable part as well. Whereas a lot of people just want to share, the success stories, what was been
Yeah.
happening, but the vulnerability is there as well. You going through. A lot of people won't talk about the therapy that, oh yeah, I've been through this, because it's, I think, to this day a lot of people are
Yeah.
challenged to talk about that, right? And we all go through some sort of challenge, trauma, or something that we would need a
Yeah.
coach, a professional, to just guide us through it, whether that is just to understand and listen to us, and we are able to put that point across. And so thank you for sharing this. What came to my mind was, that you had so much. So you're very young to have all these successes, uh, and be at this position now that you are able to help others, uh, who are going through overwhelm, and reclaim their power. What would be, the a typical journey like for that person who would reach out to you and say, okay, help me, please? What would that journey look like, just as a
Yeah.
general? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one thing about like me being young, that was a huge I don't know, like thing that was hard for me to overcome because it was a fear, a limiting belief, if we say
Mm,
it that way, of like, who am I to tell? Like, a bunch of my students were like double my age, and I was like, who am I to teach them anything? But then I remembered also my journey and me growing up, and like now looking back, like when I was young, I had to grow up very fast.
mhm,
So of course back then and going through that and being like, I've, there is a lot of emotions going to like, why did I have to go through that? Why did I not get to be a child? Blah, blah, blah. But then now I'm like, this is why, because I had to have all those experiences so that I can now, as a 24-year-old, teach people who are double my age. And I have gone through all the things that like stuff that they resonate with. And of course, I'm going to resonate with the people who resonate with my journey and whoever that is. But something that I realized recently is like, no, it's a gift and it's my power of like, I have gone through like a bunch of shit and now
mhm,
I can embrace that and be like, yeah, and now I know how you feel and I can resonate and I've learned a lot. And it has its pros and cons, of course, but I have now learned that it's a huge gift. So yeah, but yeah, too, when people want to come to me and get support. So one thing that it's often they say like it's a past version of you. So someone who resonates with your journey, who feel the way that you felt, so that you can like, hey, I know how you feel, and it's okay to feel that way, and it sucks and it's hard, but I'm going to take your hand. I'm going to support you. I'm going to hold space for you. And, let's get out of there. Let's go to wherever you want to go to. So what we do usually is like start, of course, like where do you want to go? Like dream. What did you want to do when you were a kid? What were your goals? And then coming back to the powerful question of like, if time and money was not a thing, what would you do? So that is definitely where we start. And frankly, like a lot of people have never thought of that question. I was just asking this of one of my friends this weekend, and because he was sharing like, yeah, like I don't really know what I want to do, if this is what I want to study, whatever. And I asked him this question, and he was kind of surprised because it's not normal that you get asked that question. And I was like, I don't know. And I was like, yeah, maybe you should think about that because that is such an important question. So that is definitely always where we start. And it's hard for some people, but that's also okay. And it might take longer. It might take, a few journaling sessions to get that answer out of you. But I'm there to guide that and help in whatever way is necessary because I know that we all have that dream. Like when people say that, I don't know, or I don't have any, like, no, you do, but there's the like blinders on your eyes of like, you don't see what's possible for you. But I do because we all can do whatever we want to if we just are ready to put in the work and take those steps. So yeah, so it's about setting those goals and like where do we want to go? And then, okay, what are the steps that we need to take to get there? And then there's often a lot of, limiting beliefs and the stories and getting like, okay, these hard things that you've gone through, like how do we make those to your unique gifts? How do we switch that story in your mind of like, it didn't happen to me, but for me? And by doing that, we also reclaim our power back of like, it happened for me so that I can now step into my power and help others or just like be yourself because even that in whatever form it looks like will inspire others to do the same. And that is about that journey of like we all just stepping into our power. And one important thing is also like once we do, we can see where other people are coming from and we can hold space for them as well because we are holding ourselves.
I love that. I love that. So it will be all the individual journeys
Yeah.
with those questioning and individual will bring, to the table what is that for them. And I love the journal aspects of it. I mean, I can't I am challenged with journaling at the moment. Well, and for a few years, I used to love writing. I wrote in college newspapers and things like that, articles and reviews, but then that kind of just like faded away, and I'm seeing, maybe listening to you myself, seeing that maybe it was just because I just got too occupied with other stuff and I was like, yeah, it's not important anymore. uh, but what I did is I embraced technology, so I'm a massive fan of technology, automation and things like that, so whatever that can make it easier. So what I do is now is I record a little video, a little clip of me saying things
Mm.
to it, and I've got a private YouTube channel where just upload it up there, so it's not clogging up my space on my phone. So it goes up there, and if I want to go back and watch it certain time, like, oh, this time last month or last year, what did I feel like, and you can go back and see it. And it's a bit like as if you're doing journal and you want to go back and read what you were felt like this time last month or last year, you can see that. And it also helps you to see the progress you've made from how you were at that time and how you are now. I have noticed that I'm a much more happier person currently than I was, let's say, 2 3 years ago. Bushy-eyed and burned out and all that was there, but now I know how to look after myself and a bit more time to myself as well. And everything I'm doing is scheduled. So I've become a much more person who loves to schedule stuff, and it's there. If it's not scheduled, it's not getting done. it's just gonna get pushed back if it's not been agreed upon with anything. So if there's no fixed time been agreed, it's up in the air. So if it's up in the air, it's there, but it'll get overridden by anything else. So
Yeah.
which brings me to yourself, how now do you manage your time? As you've mentioned, you've got a school as well there, and how do you now manage all this time that you are doing
Hmm.
things now?
Yeah, I think it is great what you shared because it is hard to take the time and it's easy to forget. And even I remember like I wish I would have journaled more once I was in that lowest point and how I got out of it. But at that point I didn't have the motivation or I didn't have anyone to hold me accountable. And I think that accountability is something that I've learned now, like the past months or even weeks, like that is so important. So right now, a lot of the things like why I get stuff done is like, okay, I ask for support and I have people, I have a coach, I have accountability groups with my friends of like, hey, let's support each other because it's not easy to make changes in your lifestyle or just in general because it is so easy to get caught up in whatever is going on, if it's personal or related or like whatever. So it's important to like have that schedule as you share, like have that. And if you're not strong enough, I'm not strong enough to hold myself accountable to then, okay, have someone to do that, like help you with that and support. And I've noticed that that is also a very important part of my coaching when it comes to my clients that I didn't think it was, but then now having those people and they like ask like this is like the most important thing just to have someone to support you there. So I think the accountability has been a huge one for me. And then also, I've always been a person who loves to do multiple things. And if you're familiar with human design, I'm a manifesting generator. And that means that I am here to do multiple things. I am multi-passionate. I want to do things and I thrive in that. I could never see myself working a 9 to 5 doing the exact same thing for years. And I think that was also when I grew up, the reason where it's like there is something more. Like there, I'm not okay with having to be okay with like, okay, once I grow up, I'm gonna have a 9 to 5 and that's gonna be my life. Was like, no, that's not happening. Like, I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to not have that.
Mm.
And then when I learned, like, okay, my human design is actually like my energy body type, like how I function the best is actually when I do multiple things. So I've just learned to be okay with that. And it was hard at first because society doesn't exactly tell us to do multiple things.
Mm.
It's more like, hey, let's go into this one thing and be very good at that and then that is your thing, but that just never worked for me. So I embrace the fact that I like to do a lot of things and that keeps my energy going. But of course, I also need to be aware of the fact that I did have a burnout earlier and I tend to do a lot of things. So for me, it's been also a big journey of like, okay, finding the balance between rest and work because I still love everything that I do. And I'm so happy that I found something that I love doing. But then it's like, okay, but also, when am I there for me? When am I there to do the things that really brings me joy, that is not being there for others? So, for example, now, like, okay, dancing and singing is something that I loved doing when I was a kid and that I've not let myself do for years. So now I really like, okay, let's find a dance class or let's just I usually have like I put the song Happy is like my favorite song from like years back when I was like, okay, let's just dance to this song and say that we're happy and it actually helps. So it's like this is something that I always do before I start work because I'm like, okay, I want to get into that energy and it immediately like switches my mindset and then I do feel better. So it's like, okay, these tiny moments in my everyday life where I am there just for me. And that has helped me to then be able to also do these other things where I'm more for, holding space or like helping others.
That's actually amazing to hear, and I heard human design there.
Mm.
You know, if obviously if there is a shorter version that you are able to just explain for the listeners or viewers who are not familiar with what human design means or what that is. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's this astrologically based system of like it tells a lot about who we are as a being, like what we're here to do, and also how we function the best. And it is based on like when you're born, like what time and where on the planet you're born, and then it is it's a bit more than astrology. So it tells more of like even like okay, how do you thrive in your routines? So like me, for example, I used to be that to-do list person, like I want to have this routine, but I just never, like it just didn't work for me. Like I was always failing. I still do this because I tend to forget, but I always try like, okay, now I'm gonna have this new routine. And then when I learned about human design, there is actually a part in the chart that tells you about, okay, are you more of like I need a schedule, like at this time do this and da da da, or is it more like okay, today we're doing this and then tomorrow it might look different. And I was that it might look different day to day. So it also been like, okay, now I learned this part of myself, and then trying out that and kind of finding the balance. So there's so many things of like, okay, how do you manifest? Are you a non-specific or specific manifester? How do you see yourself? How does other people see you? And there is like a bunch of information. And once I learned about it, I was just like, everything makes sense. Like now I finally am reading in front of me a description of myself and parts that I've always been like, I'm not allowed to be that way because society or whoever thinks that it's not okay. And then I'm reading it there and I'm like, oh my God, like this, that was just like, whoa, now I am allowed to be myself. And then the exciting part of like, okay, so once I've stepped more into that, um, I also learn more about myself and I can thrive in all those parts of myself. So it is definitely something that is worth looking into. It's very interesting. It's also amazing to see what your friends are or your partner, because it also tells about like a lot of like you understand both yourself and others better in why they act the way they do. So that's been an exciting journey. And I also love to use it in my coaching because once I know what human design they are, I'm just like, oh, this makes so much sense. Like it tells so much about the person, that it's just easier to be there for them because I know like some stuff are, some stuff are specific to
Mm.
that energy body type, for example.
I actually love this. And when you were mentioning this, you know, what was coming through my mind was it's a bit like, you know, when people say that, oh yeah, babies don't come with manual. Yeah, they do. This is it. You know, so it's basically a manual that you're getting it a bit late in the life, and by that time that you are realizing, oh, I see this pattern. I see I'm me
Yeah.
doing this. I see this, and this is the reason I'm doing this. You know, it's all there. So it's a bit like a manual and instructions and what should be there. So
Mhm.
that's great. We'll definitely tell people to check it out if they haven't done so. Myself probably would need to look into that as well. I've heard about human design now and then, but never looked into it. So definitely need to check that to see what my one is, because somebody else brought up that in one of the conversations I was having prior last week, and the human design was mentioned. I was like, okay, that's interesting. I need to find out more
Yeah.
about it. And now you mentioned it as well. So that's interesting. So there's obviously a sign for me to go and check it out. Um, so is there a ritual or routine? There's different names everybody likes to use for themselves, that you follow. Like are you like a night owl, early riser, whichever
Mhm.
that is? What do you follow? Do you do meditation, yoga, things like that throughout the day? What does that look like for you?
Mm. So I've definitely had to play around with it a lot and like, okay, finding the flowiness and not like restrict myself too much, but also holding myself accountable of showing up for myself. So what I worked, like noticed that works for me is definitely like, okay, usually when I wake up, I now um, first I do maybe like a 5-10 minute meditation. or just like focus on, just like be there, like in the present moment. And then I like to journal for at least like 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, 5 minutes I can do, like whatever day it is, whatever busy, whatever, like 5 minutes of journaling. So I write down three things that I'm grateful for, and then just whatever is on my mind, just like even a half page. So that's what I do. And then I always drink a cup of morning tea, and I do have these amazing big cups. So I'm like, I'm taking that, and then I do my dance to that one song, just to get like my body moving. And then also, depending kind of how stiff my back is or whatever, I might do like a 5 minute, 10 minute, just like stretching, a little yoga in the morning. And then I've taken a little moment for myself, and then I can be there for others. But I do tend to be more of the night owl. And also, I try to be like, oh, but it, like, you should wake up at 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. or whatever. And I was like, no, like, it just hurts my soul to do that. So I'm not going to do that. And it's okay. And sometimes I might do that if I feel like that. But I'm just like, okay, sleep is very important to me. So I do that. And then I do my morning routine. And sometimes it's later, sometimes it's earlier. But I try to like still stick to the morning routine part, but not be too like I have to do it on a certain, like at 9 a.m. or whatever. Like that's more flowy. But I've noticed like taking those small moments for myself is very needed. So even throughout the day, just like doing a 2 minute breathing exercise, like the 4x4 of like four in, hold for four, four out, hold for four, and doing that a couple of times. Just, it doesn't take long, but it is long enough for your body to relax. And I've noticed that those are very important, because I do tend to be, I have that avoider of me of like, oh, it's gonna take too long. I don't have time. There's so much I have to do. But then now learning like, but I will get more time actually if I do them, because then I'm more present in the moment, and I'm not going all the time. I'm like, hey, this is the moment. I'm present here. And then I do that for myself. And then I'm like, okay, how can I serve now? Or what do I do next?
Mm.
So yeah.
So that would be your hyperachiever trying to overtake take yourself. You said, forget all this, just go go
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's and it's interesting to hear that obviously you recognize, and you know you're like, okay, I need to do this so that I can be more present and be more here. Um, and what I'm thinking here as well is, in regards to when you're doing all this and being present, um, how can others who are listening to this now uh, can, let's say, get themselves into that sort of position, you know, so
Yeah.
that, let's say, if they had to do something to find that presence in their journey, how is there something, I'm not saying a hack or a quick fix, but something
Yeah.
that can get them started? What would that be like?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one thing that I teach when I teach people about intuition or getting more in tune to yourself, or even with my clients, like one of the action steps on the first week is to stop in your everyday life, choose 5 different places, being like work, home, like bedroom, out on a walk, or like whatever 5 places you choose. And then just like stop in that moment, maybe close your eyes and tune into what do you feel in that moment. And then, okay, maybe it's stress or maybe it's happiness or whatever, and then writing that down. It can even be 10 seconds. Like sometimes it's very hard for people to even do 10 seconds. So like, let's start there. Even for 10 seconds, just stop and listen. What is the first word or feeling that comes into your mind? And then that is how we start the journey. Because of course, like it is so easy to just go on with your life, like even at work, and just be like, yeah, yeah, work is great. And then when you stop at work for 10 seconds and listen to your body, and your body is screaming, like, stop, like, I don't want to do this. It tells a lot about where you know, how you maybe feel in that moment, and like about how that is either serving you or draining you. So that is something that we'll always start with, because it can, for some people, it can be hard to hear. And that is why they don't stop in that moment, or that is why we don't stop, because deep down we know how that moment feels for us, or how, how it is, but we don't want to hear it, because that means that we're aware of it, and that means that we need to change it if we choose to, or if we want another life. Like, so it's hard to hear sometimes. So that is why it's like 10 seconds. It's easy. Anyone has 10 seconds to take for themselves, and then go from there. So if it's like 5 places in 1 week, okay, how did that feel like? What did those situations teach you? And then going like, okay, next week, can you do a bit longer? Or can you do it like once a day, or, more often? And it's like a slow process, but you're getting there, and it is getting easier every time. And then stuff is showing up, and then through that journey, like, you also learn how to handle those, because it is hard to sit with your emotions, and it is hard to sit with yourself. And it is not anything that they exactly teach us at school. So it's like, it would be so amazing if they would. But that is why we're here. We who want to create a world where people can do that and heal and step into their power. And yeah.
I love that, and thank you for sharing that. And it's just reminded me of what I tend to do on a basis of when I can recognize myself getting overwhelmed, or when you just feel like, oh, I had enough, right? That kind of feeling when you have that, and you're like, okay, what I tend to do is I just look up at the sky. And the reason I do that is because if you're conditioned by society, or what everything around you is to look this way straight, you're tunnel vision. And if you're still looking here, most of the time we are just looking down when we're walking to avoid contact, or we are just looking straight because we just want to get to where we are going. And what that happened is the mind is getting just congested. All it knows is what it sees this way, and nothing else exists. So it doesn't have enough space to then create anything or do anything. By looking up at the sky, it just expands it, because there's no ending up there. There are no walls up there. There's no no pavement suddenly after a road or traffic light or whatever that is blocking. There's nothing there, so it just expands. And when you do that, even as you said, for 10 seconds, and I now tend to do it for a minute or two, and I look up, and when you expand, your brain also expands with that now, and it also then allows it to leave everything that was just getting you down, for example, or you were just feeling overwhelmed, or you were feeling, oh, I don't know what the day is going like, whatever that is, and you want to just check in with yourself. And that's how I've been doing it. And for me, obviously, it works amazingly, because I look up and it just expands my view, and it just shows my brain then, the possibilities are endless, right? So it's there. And I go by the thing, when sky is not the limit anymore. When people used to say, oh, sky is the limit. Well, no,
Yeah.
sky is not the limit anymore. It's beyond that, right? So, and if you're looking up, that's what you're looking at. It's beyond that now. And that's what, if you just look up and say that sky is not the limit, it sees there's no limit there anymore. It's beyond, and it lets you then come down, and as you said, check in what your feelings are, what words come to your mind when you're looking up there. I mean, everybody carries a phone nowadays, so put notes in there. Write them down. Put them notes. If you're like me, just record them if you want. So I just got voice notes, so just put voice notes. Mathilda, that was actually very great journey to hear from you, and so many aha moments there, and golden nuggets for people to take away. People who are listening to this episode from beginning, thank you very much. Or if you joined now, I recommend to go back and rewind this episode. It will be left on IGTV, and in a few months' time, I'm not too sure when, it will be posted onto podcasts as well. So, if you want to come back and check it out, do that as well. For everybody who is now listening to this or listening to this as a podcast, for example, now, it's our duty to share this episode with whomever just came into your mind, or you can think and benefit with this. If you had that spark in yourself, it's our duty now to share that spark, because that spark is all we need to get the engine started, get the person to take that step. If you had that inspirational moment, aha, in your mind, it's our duty, because we don't know who's woken up or who's gone to bed thinking of a better day. And if this is you that had an aha moment, we can just share the story and create that aha moment with them as well. Mathilda, we're going to be wrapping this up soon. What would you like to leave the audience with as a wrap-up comment?
I have one thing. Shine your light so others can too.
I love that. Shine your light so others can too. I might actually
Yeah.
use that as a title
Yeah.
for the episode when it becomes a podcast. Shine your light as others can too. That is so amazing. Thank you very much, Mathilda, for your time and everything, and hope everybody enjoyed the episode as well. There was definitely lots of golden nuggets for people to take away from here. And everybody else, we will see you next Tuesday. And thank you very much, Mathilda.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.